Hey, Collabcast listeners, this is Captain Dave Jackson coming to you on a sunny afternoon in Hendersonville, Tennessee, part of Nashville. So, thank you for joining us today. I'm super excited for you to meet somebody that I just met a few minutes ago, but I've known virtually for some time, mostly because of her Monday Magic moments. And that's really why I invited her to come on. Her name is Olivia Schmitt. She's from Dubuque, Iowa. Olivia, welcome to our Collabcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Dubuque, did you know I'm from Sioux City?
No, you had said that you were from Iowa, and so yeah,
Yep.
I wanted to make sure we covered where in Iowa you were from.
So, those of you who don't know geography, Iowa has the Mississippi River on the left to the east, and the Missouri River, and then the Big Sioux River cuts up on the left coast, on the left, on the west. And if you take about 2/3 of the way up the state, Dubuque on the right, on the Mississippi,
Hmm.
Sioux City is at the corner of Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota on the Missouri River. And they are connected all the way across with US 20. So if
Yep.
you went across US 20 from Dubuque to Sioux City, you'd be there in about 3.5 hours,
Yeah, yeah. It's not
four
too
hours,
bad.
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you from Dubuque originally?
No. So, I was raised here. I've essentially been here my entire life, but I'm actually from a tiny town called Chadron, Nebraska. So the west
Oh,
side,
out in the
northwest
hill
side of
country.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. So
Hmm.
I have made that trip across Iowa and Nebraska so many times. In fact, just did it last week with my kids on our way to vacationing in Colorado. So yeah, I know the roads between here and there pretty well.
Very good. So you're an Iowan,
I
you would
am. I'm
say.
I'm in Iowa, and my kids
So
are Dubuquers. Their dad is like a third
okay.
generation Dubuquer or something like that. So yeah, we're
Not
pretty.
not Wallert folks, are you?
No, no, but yeah, obviously it's a well-known name around here. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So I'm from the reason I ask because there's only one Catholic high school in Sioux City where I'm from, and
Uh-huh.
it's called Heelan, Bishop Heelan. I went there, so in the 70s, and so the counterpart in Dubuque would be Bishop Wallert or Wallert High School,
Yeah.
which is a Catholic parochial school in Dubuque. So we know each other.
Yes.
So from sports and activities and all that good stuff. So all right, so you live on the river, close to the river.
So I mean, I'm actually gonna
How
take my
far from
dog
the river?
walking on the river, but I don't know. It's like 4 or 5 miles from my house. It's not too
Oh,
far, but far
okay,
enough away
pretty
that
close.
if there's flooding activity, I don't have to worry about it. But
And that can happen.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, Dubuque has built a beautiful river walk as part of our
Hmm.
security system from trying to keep those banks a little safer from the flooding. So
Right.
yeah, it's
Right.
actually I think award-winning river walk that we have here in Dubuque. So yeah, me and the pups and some friends are heading down for a walk on a river walk later tonight. So yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
I don't think I've been to Dubuque for quite a few years. I actually lived in Bettendorf, which is
Oh
part of the
yeah,
Quad
yep.
Cities,
You know
for
flooding then.
11 years.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they had flooding. They now have built a pretty good dike and try to eliminate that. But it was a big, when I lived there, it was a big debate, don't block the view. We love our rivers, so let it flood. And it did. Oh my gosh, 1983, it was horrible.
Yeah.
That was the worst one that I remember. And then there's those that are like, we have to protect our investment, and our down. It would flood 3 blocks up into downtown, which is right
Hmm.
on the river, which is crazy. I mean, serious damage. I mean, millions and millions of dollars of damage, and we can't build a dike because spoil the view of our beautiful river. So that was they finally took care of it because it didn't make sense to keep going like that. So,
Yeah.
but they don't have the beautiful river walk like you're talking about.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
used
We
to
have
get
we have a
last
pretty
time.
flood
I lived
wall.
there yeah, yeah, that's what it amounts to. So the Mississippi is, obviously the biggest river in the U.S., so
Hmm.
it's pretty powerful. And a little too much rain up north and snow when it melts, springtime, look out. So
Yeah.
yeah. So let's start with you personally.
Oof.
Tell me about you. Family. I know you have 3 kids, 16, 13, and 10. Your daughter just turned 10.
Yep.
I know some of this because I follow you on LinkedIn primarily. So tell us about your family.
Yeah. So, gosh, how much do you want to know? I'm actually the,
Much as you want to tell us.
yeah, my dad actually came here from Vietnam after the war. So, yeah, so I'm the lucky daughter of an immigrant and have gotten to grow up with that, which is funny, from the standpoint of like, I probably knew a lot of broken English as a kid, more than regular English, just communicating with my dad. But yeah, so grew up here in Dubuque. My dad was actually like a computer programming major back in the late 70s, early 80s, when nobody was, it wasn't quite as popular. It was hard to get your degree. And a
Sure.
job opened up in Dubuque. And so that's how I ended up in Dubuque ultimately. But yeah, so my core family, or my, I don't know what you call it. What do you,
Immediate
my
family. Yeah.
immediate family has since moved away. My mom went to Nebraska, my dad went to North Carolina because he prefers a little bit warmer climate than the Midwest could get him. But I stayed here and started a family. And so yeah, like you said, I have three fantastic kids. My oldest is a junior, so he's going to be a senior next year, which I'm a little sad about, but also
Getting
just
scary,
excited.
driving, girlfriends, all that.
Yes. First breakup and heartbreak and all that kind of stuff. So
Oh
yeah, I'm
no.
going through all those mom emotions with him. So yeah, but my 13-year-old is my quiet, your typical middle child, and my daughter is just a spitfire. So yeah, you've probably seen her on a few of those Monday
I have
videos.
your
Uh,
dog and her. Yeah,
Yes,
mostly.
yes, they are both camera hogs. They love it, and I appreciate her perspective on life. Actually, all of my kids. I think it's interesting when you become a parent that you realize how much you don't know. But
Oh,
you're
it's the hardest job in the world,
it's
of
yeah, it's
course.
so hard, but they also start to develop their own perspective on the world. And some of it you can tell is just very immature. They haven't had enough experiences in life. But that they also just have some really grounded perspective because they haven't had all of these other things that have kind of started to cloud the way that they think or see the world. Um, so yeah, it's my hardest job, but also my favorite job, the most frustrating and the most rewarding. So yeah, so I got divorced a few years ago. Their dad and I have a great relationship. He lives 4 blocks away. We live in that. I mean, Dubuque's that kind of town where you can just live four
Sure.
blocks from your former spouse, and
Anybody.
yeah, and kids walk and ride their bikes back and forth and things like that. So, life has been interesting the last few years, taken some twists and turns that I probably didn't expect in my early 30s, but at the same time, I think that I have a pretty blessed existence in this world. So yeah,
Cool.
that's I guess that's the family. So Taylor's my 16-year-old, and
And is Taylor's driving, right? Does he have his own car?
he does not have his own car yet. That's coming. And it's like
Uh,
the car shopping process is um just really challenging because I'm like, I don't know what a good car is and a bad car is. Like, I just don't know these
right.
things. I don't know how to fix anything on a car. But the other thing, like I told him, and I think this audience will appreciate it on many levels as parents and as insurance agents. I told him like we have to be economical in terms of what we choose from an insurance perspective. The initial price on a car is one thing. What is it going to cost for me to allow you to drive that thing every single day? God forbid something happen and there's an
Way
accident.
more than what you paid just to get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm like, so we have to consider all of these things. It's not just what you think you should spend on the car. Let's talk about the budget going forward, gas, insurance, all of those things. So
So you
there's a lot
do a
of,
little financial workshop with him
yeah,
to get him to understand
lots
what
of
it all takes.
business lessons going on with him on a daily basis. And the funny thing is that he actually um he's been taking like some master classes in real estate investment and things like that. So he's got a pretty good sense, or he's trying to develop a sense of business. But yeah, there's still things like a 16-year-old just thinks like, you should have this car. You're like, my friend has this car with a certain engine. And I'm like, I don't know if his parents realize how much this is probably killing their rates, but
Certain
whatever.
engine.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's just like, it doesn't occur to me. Like, my parents bought me a car that made me question whether or not they loved me. And his experience might
Right.
be a little
We
bit
all
different than
did.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, watching him kind of like sort out all of these things and what, their first real adult responsibility, is like getting their first job and then buying a car. And so, yeah, just being on that journey with him is kind of fun. So,
So he's a junior now,
mhm.
SATs, all of that,
Yep.
looking at college.
Yep. So, um, he, for years he was like, I'm not going to go to college. I'm just going to get into the workforce and whatever. So, now I think the talk is he's going to become a paramedic. We'll see. These are somewhat my
Oh,
hopes and dreams, but ultimately he wants to be in the Colorado world doing the ski resort thing. And I'm like,
he's a mountain man,
he's a
huh?
mountain man. So, I try and make sure he remembers that ski instructors are employable, maybe 6+ months out of the year in Colorado, not
Right,
so much
right.
around
Then
here.
then you can go be a lifeguard on the beach.
Yeah, but then you can still be employable. God forbid, another pandemic type event happen in our world. Ski instructors don't have a living in a pandemic world.
No, no.
A paramedic has first responder roles and responsibilities. So yeah, I've tried to help him expand his horizons on what he feels like is good from a career perspective. It's really fun at 16 to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna be a ski bum forever. And then I'm like, well, honey, sometime you're gonna
Sure.
come off the payroll, and then being a ski bum won't be quite as fun.
I got to tell you a story. So you, by my age, you can tell. I used to watch the Cosby Show. This is way back in the
Mm-hmm.
day. Bill Cosby, and he had how many kids? 4 or 5 or 6. And Theo was his son, and he took Theo was getting to be about 16. He took Theo into his bedroom, and said, "All right, what all do you want? I want my own apartment. I want my own." He lived in New York City. They didn't need cars, but I want my own. Be able to take my girlfriend out and go to dinner and have this life, right? So Bill Cosby says, no problem. Here's your allowance. How much you think you need to make a month? He says, I'll settle for $500. So he hands him $500 bills. He says, okay, now I'm going to let you spend all that for your first month. So you're going to ask a landlord to let you stay at his place, right? Yeah, I got to have my own apartment. Okay, so that's going to be $300, pay me. So he pays him $300. He says, all right, how much is dinner? So he gave him the lesson, short version. He
Mm-hmm.
gave him the lesson. And he's like, you're out of money. I'm like, yeah, how can that be? I need more money. Well, that's all you're working for, doing what you want to do. It was a really good episode. I love it. I remember it till the day I die
Yeah.
because that's how he taught him, his financial lesson because Theo didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
He thought he was just going to go out there and figure it all out and it'll all be great. And Theo found out this might be a little harder than I thought. So it was a good lesson. So sounds like Taylor's going through some of those things too.
Yeah, he's sorting those things out. But I do think like the big when he did have this girlfriend, it was like, oh, whining and dining, the whole wooing phase of a relationship, and let's go out
For
to dinner and
sure.
let's do this and he's like, I'm out of money. I'm like, yeah, I wonder why. Like, you know,
And she doesn't pay for a thing, does she?
yeah, she doesn't have to. He was so caught up in impressing her. So, it's lessons about relationships and life and budgets and
Oh boy.
I don't know if my parents like actively sat down and talked to me about those things, and that's fine. That was their way, but I've been close to him from the get-go. I mean, maybe all moms are close to their first child like that, but
Sure,
we've
sure.
just always had really open dialogue. And so, yeah, just keeping that open relationship with him has been really just something that I've appreciated. I mean, we've certainly had our moments, but watching him grow up and just those wheels turn, and as things start to make more
Hmm.
sense, they realize maybe life's not as simple and straightforward as I hoped it would always be. But
For sure.
yeah, yeah. So
So your 13-year-old is your quiet one.
he's so quiet. Yep. He has two very extroverted siblings. So he seems even more quiet, I think, than he would maybe in a different situation. But yeah, he always he's got one-liners every day, right? He's got some funny joke, something he saw, something he observed, and he's got a joke about it. And it's something that probably a lot of people would have passed by, but he's
Catch you off guard.
yeah, he catches you off
One-liners.
guard. Like he's good at that. So, yeah, but he's kind of a little bit like on his own and kind of wants to stay that way for the rest of his life. At least that's what he says right now. But
No girls in his
no
life?
girls in his life. No, no, no. No,
That's
he's just,
okay.
yeah, he's like, I want to play video games and he's running track this year. So, he's slowly breaking out of the shell. But um, having two kids that are just so out and social is interesting because I think, he's actually been very determined to just be himself. And I appreciate that about him.
For sure.
It's
Yeah.
so easy to conform, and I can't even imagine the pressures of a middle schooler these days is so much different than what I
Mm.
experienced
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
those years ago. And so he's just kind of kept to who he is, what he believes in. He's not easily swayed. He's not going with the crowd. He's just doing his thing. And so as much as I'm like, gosh, I wish you'd talk to me at dinner or make eye contact, I recognize that, he's got a different set of independence and rules that he plays by, and how he's going to live his life. And so, yeah, he's funny though. He's every once in a while he just comes up with that zinger and it's like, oh, that was good.
So your Spitfire, 10 years old, she just turned 10.
Yeah.
Is she into boys already?
She's been boy crazy for a long time.
I kind of wondered. The
Yeah.
Spitfires usually are.
Yes, yes. So yeah, I do think she has a little boyfriend. Yeah, because when we were on vacation, she needed to buy a souvenir for her boyfriend. Which is
Oh.
not an approved relationship because she is too young. I have a pretty strict 16 and dating rule in my house. But she's a ball of energy. She has been from the moment she was born. She knew what she wanted, and she really doesn't do well with taking no for an answer. So, um, it's a good thing and also like the most difficult thing as a mom sometimes.
For sure.
But she's also just got a huge heart and she wears it on her sleeve. And that can be a little bit scary for me, but at the same time, she owns who she is and she has this love of everything around her. Um, and she can just be very soulful and compassionate. Um, and I she's so much like me that it scares me a little bit. But yeah, she's also a lot tougher than I ever was at age 10. So she's got that resilience factor that I hope she
Keep an
hangs
eye
on
on
to.
her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Keep an
know.
eye on her.
I'm
Yep.
like it's like her and her friend there's probably a hold, right? There's like all of these girls that are like going to come up in age and they're going to change the world and they're already changing the world and I think she does it just by caring about people and
Well, that's a good thing.
being
Yeah.
the smile in the room. Like that's kind of how she moves through life. And yeah, so yeah, but she's also very sassy. Like I don't want to sugarcoat everything about her. She's very sassy and sometimes I need her. I'm like, "Hey, we got to turn down the sour and turn up the sweet, honey, 'cause like mama's had enough for the day."
So, as if parenting isn't the hardest job you've ever had, you decide to go to the insurance industry.
Yeah.
What in the world? Did you just stumble into it like most of us?
Totally fell into it. Totally. So I was actually a massage therapist at the time that I got into the industry. And this was,
Wow, what a
yeah,
transition.
yeah. So this would have been, I don't know, 2003, 2004. Trying to remember. Um, but yeah, it was a massage therapist. Back then, it wasn't like a lifestyle thing as far as massages. Those were things that like people got on vacation. So there was
Right,
really no
right.
stability in that line of work that I had chosen for myself. And so I met a friend of a friend, and she was like, met me once and then said, "Hey, I think you should drop your resume off at the insurance agency that I work at, and we have a position open." And that's really the how it all started. Went
What
through
was that position?
so it was a commercial lines account manager. So I work, well, I guess it
Okay,
probably, we were like that role was probably called CSR at the time.
right.
So yeah, so started out in commercial lines and at Tricor Insurance, which at the time, I don't even know how many locations they had, but they grew a lot by acquisition and, um, you know, just an expanding. insurance agency that I was lucky enough to be part of. I wouldn't even say in the early days, but certainly it looked a lot different. I watched it evolve so much in the time that I was there. I count myself very lucky to have started there when I did. I was 22 and I just kind of like,
Wow.
yeah, it just was like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. I would have never, I didn't think about whether it was a career-long decision, like a lifelong decision, or if it
Mhm.
was leading to something else. Like I didn't at
It
22,
was
I
a
don't know if
job
you,
at the time.
yeah, it was a job, it was stability. Um, I instantly had amazing mentors in the industry, which I think changed everything for me. Had I not had those people,
Sure.
I don't know if I would have stuck around. But I
Right.
was really, really lucky to be surrounded by good people that brought me along and taught me, tried to teach me everything they know. They probably forget way more than I will ever know about insurance,
And
but
they're
yeah,
based there in Dubuque.
one was based in Dubuque. One was in Platteville, Wisconsin, another small town, and just tremendous people that knew so much, but also were just kind of the best humans. They treated me like a daughter when I was having one of those days when I just needed a mom to listen to me talk about life. So I
Right.
was really lucky to have mentors and friends that brought me along.
Now, were you required to get licensed?
Mm-hmm.
How
Yes.
did that go? Right out the bat? Here's a book, study.
Uh-huh. Yep. So I got my license. I was super lucky, passed my test on the first try, and
Good.
yeah, thank God. But CE in Iowa was handled a little bit different then, and it ended up expiring on at the end of the year, not your birthday month. So when I
Mm.
started in October, I only had 2 months of my first year for CE. Okay. So go through it.
That's not exempt. That 2 months isn't exempt, and then
No,
you go
it's
into a new
not.
period.
It's not. I thought it would be.
That's kind of crazy.
Honestly thought it would
Yeah.
be. All of a sudden, I started getting notifications that my license had lapsed. And
Hmm.
carriers were, rescinding my appointments, all of that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And I
Sure.
was like, what happened? We called the state. The state was like, yeah, you didn't get your CE in on time. And so I got to go back and take the license exam a second time. And I have never
Oh, no
let,
way.
yep,
Not just a reinstatement with CE.
nope, nope,
Wow.
yep.
And a fee.
Yeah, so
Wow.
fortunately passed it again. But I don't know this many years later if I could pass it. I really like you think about how much like they test you on an unendorsed policy and then you never touch
Oh,
an
I know.
unendorsed policy. So
The test has 90% of what you'll never use
yeah.
in your career.
Yeah.
It's just to say that you read a book, and the book's supposed to cover everything you do on a day-to-day basis in an insurance agency operation, and that's not the case at all. I taught CE in Iowa in the 80s, back when it was all manual test on paper, check the oval,
Yeah.
with a pencil, number 2 lead pencil, and so that's how old I am. But if you had known, would you have waited 3 months to take the exam,
Oh my gosh, no.
like
Like
January, and start, a
oh,
whole
had
new
I
period?
know I think I would have
Yeah,
just gotten my CE done. Like it
yeah,
was
but wait 3 months.
yeah,
Are they
yeah,
in
I
that
don't
big a
know.
rush?
Well, I think because they were filling a position, so they needed someone like licensed immediately to start working.
Right,
So,
right.
so yeah, I mean, it made sense at the time. But yeah,
Never missed your deadline since for CE,
no,
have
no,
you?
it's such a rude awakening. Like that is
Yes,
when
it
all of a
is.
sudden, like, yeah, your favorite carrier is like, we've revoked your appointment. I'm like, what did I do? Like, did somebody like file something that I committed a crime? Like, seriously, I thought something, there's got to be a mistake here somewhere. And, it was legit, unfortunately. And I got to redo
Hmm.
the whole process again. But yeah, yeah.
How long did you work for Tricor?
I was there for 15 years.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, yeah. So spent
All
the,
on the commercial side of the business?
yeah, all on the commercial side. Started up their small business department 9 years into working there and got a taste of leadership and management and looking at reports and analytics and that kind of thing. And there was a little bit of a gap year in there as well where I was at IBM and
Hmm.
Dubuque got brought an IBM office in. for, I don't think it exists anymore, but yeah, I went there, and as much as like that jump to a giant company like that from a family-owned company was like too much of a cultural shift for me, I learned a ton about how we look at our work, how we review it, what conversations should be like. At IBM, we were having stand-ups twice a day talking about like what's the state of the business, what's going on, what do we need to accomplish today, what's going to hit an SLA. And there was just so much intentional conversation going on, but my heart was still in insurance. And so I got to take all of those learnings about how you look at the business, um, and take those back to the insurance industry. So Tricor welcomed me back. I feel so blessed to have been given the opportunity to be there and then come back. Um,
For sure.
and yes, but then I was just curious. Then I was just curious about everything. How do we drive KPIs? What should we be looking at? How do we know this is accurate? Like I just became a complete nerd at that point in my life. And I'm okay with that. Like I don't know if you can shake that, but yeah.
So what led you to then leave Tricor?
I had there wasn't a lot of there was an opportunity that I was looking for. I shouldn't say there wasn't a lot of opportunity. It wasn't the right opportunity for me. I kind of like hit a little bit of my ceiling in that agency, and I didn't want to go to a competitor. I felt very strongly about the relationships I had built at Tricor, and so I didn't feel that at that point in my career, moving on to a different agency was the right route to go. But the insurtech space was up and coming. There was a lot
For
going
sure.
on. We'd kind of gotten over the big boom where there was a lot of cannibalization of new tech product, and the real hard and fast uh, products and shifts in technology were really starting to like sink their teeth in, right? They had a good hold on the market, and they were starting to really get some meaningful traction. And so yeah, it made sense to start exploring the insurtech space. I had a good understanding of the industry from the agency side, and I just was looking to expand on that.
So you went looking for a new opportunity that
Mhm.
you weren't recruited.
I was a little bit of both, it was a little bit of knowing people, getting to know people, asking questions. I mean, when I was at Tricor, I had the opportunity to look at the technology that we were considering onboarding into the agency. And so that gave me a ton of exposure to other companies in the marketplace. So I wouldn't say there wasn't like any sort of direct poaching. It wasn't anything like that. It was more of like,
Mhm.
what else is out here? So
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So you leave there and you go to Total CSR,
hmm
who was fairly new at the time,
They
right?
were new. They were new, and just such a great model of how do we create better systems on onboarding new individuals into the industry, or even people
Yeah,
that have
they
been
have.
here for a while that are like, hey, like say you've been in more of a processing role and you haven't really had to know the guts of insurance. How do we get those people, even who have a certain level of familiarity, really ramped up on insurance knowledge so that they can be impactful in a relationship building role?
Right. And to my knowledge, no one had ever built training programs like what they had for CSRs in our industry, which
Right.
is crazy if
Yeah.
you ask me.
Yeah.
But they decided, the two brothers, right?
Yep.
They decided to start up this company, and man, they just everybody was looking for what they had.
Yes.
Everybody.
Yeah.
So they saw a need and they solved the problem, and they just took off. So what was your role with them?
So I was in a marketing and communications role. So that's when I started hosting a podcast. That's when I started writing a lot more. But unfortunately, the pandemic also hit. And,
Hmm.
in our world that looked like it was very much like, hey, we're going to be out and about. We're going to be shaking hands and talking to agency owners and really being face to face with people. Um, it just became very isolated. And I know we all experienced it, in a marketing communications role, it's really hard. Like I was
For
ready
sure.
to be out in the public, and it was like, oh, we're all just gonna stay home and stare at each other via Zoom. And it was a really tough transition for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I
For
like
a
to
lot
be
of
with
people.
people. I can talk a lot for a long time, but yeah, so it was a huge learning experience. But yeah, that transition into from a extroverted marketing role into a lockdown, a pandemic lockdown marketing
Hmm.
role was definitely a grind.
So we're taking your career step by step. So from there, you move on to Be Atomic.
Hmm.
And how did you know anybody at Be Atomic, including Seth? How did you meet them?
So Seth, oh my gosh. So my story with Seth, I was actually still at Tricor when I met Seth. And
So anybody that doesn't know, Seth Zaremba is the founder of Be Atomic. So you can tell people what Be Atomic's all about and what you did for them.
yeah, so Be Atomic was really taking a much more common sense approach to the agency management process. So, not building an agency management system, but really saying, what do we need to know from an agency management perspective in terms of better processes, better communication with our carriers, better insights into what the business is doing. And I remember seeing it in its infancy stages going, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. And I actually went to a carrier and I just got to spend a day listening to Seth speak and talk about his love for the industry, why he thought what he was doing was important, the value it brought to agency owners everywhere, in terms of making just kind of changing the field a little bit in terms of how we thought about what an agency should know about their operations. How do we have better communication and more open communication, better processes that really help us grow effectively with our carriers and become more profitable on all sides of the business ultimately. And yeah, so so my journey with Seth started before I ever even left Tricor, and really just kept in contact with him. I loved learning from him. I loved watching Be Atomic, watching that story unfold. And, along the way, as I was like out at more and more conferences, Sid became a friend and
Mhm.
still one of my
She's talking about
Sid
Sydney
Sydney
Rowe,
Rowe.
who worked for Seth. She came from Agency Nation with the big I and Ryan Hanley for a few years. And then eventually now you two are coworkers at
Yes.
Vertafore, but finish the Be Atomic story.
Oh, yes. Well, so as I was trying to sort out where the road was leading with Total CSR, um, Sid was like, "Do you think you want to come on board here? Like, is this something that you'd be interested in doing?" And so I joined Be Atomic in a sales role, and yeah, and just got to talk with agents every single day about what their technology journey looked like, and where did they want it to be, and ultimately, was there a place where the Be Atomic product and functionality, felt like it was driving more purpose inside their agency. And so it was just a really great experience of working with really forward thinking agencies and just watching things evolve. Um, and yeah, so I was very lucky to work with amazing customers that were very smart and transparent and generous, and also with just great people within the Be Atomic company, some from the insurance industry and some from a very heavy tech background. And so
Mhm.
just watching all of these perspectives come together was such a huge learning experience for me.
Very cool. So you didn't go to Vertafore right after Be
No.
Atomic. You had a short stopover at Catalytic with Steve Anderson.
Yep.
So how did that come about?
So I'm like, how do I like, um, I had known Steve. I had followed Steve for a long time. He taught
Most
C.
everybody has.
Yes.
He's an icon in our
Yes.
industry.
He taught CE. I immediately latched on to the things that he was talking about. And this, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember how long ago it was that I saw him present a CE class for the first time. And it's going to sound so silly. He talked about this one product called Paperport. I don't believe they exist anymore. It was also my favorite product and one of like a product that he highlighted in a presentation. I was just like, I instantly like Steve. Like, I'm just going to follow everything he says because we have this Paperport product in common. Um,
Plus,
but
he's a walking insurance
yes,
encyclopedia.
yes. So then I would see him at conferences and I would sit in his sessions and so I knew of him. We had people in common. And as that company was getting off the ground, they were looking for someone to come in and handle some of the operational side of things. And so I got to work with Steve for a few months along with the other founders and states that were involved in Catalytic. But ultimately, it's just, it's tough. Startup life is, it's rough. And as things unfolded, it wasn't the right fit. And so, um, you know, fortunately, still was in I just had this great friendship with Sid and great working relationship with Sid. And, she was like, is Vertafore something you would consider? Because I'm here now, and maybe you want to come here, and maybe marketing, or maybe something else. And yeah, so the
And she had been with Vertafore for how long at that
oh,
point?
just a few months, 6 or 8 months.
Right, less than a year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, short amount of time. So,
Enough time though to say I think Vertafore is a good environment
yep,
for you.
yep, yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, vouch for the company. And I always feel really fortunate when people are willing to vouch for me. I mean, like
For
that's a
sure.
huge thing. I mean, we know in
My
this
gosh,
industry,
yes.
we live and breathe by referrals, right?
Mm,
Whether it's bringing employees in or getting customers, that referral is like the most important thing that helps our
yeah,
business stay healthy and growing. And so, yeah, it means a lot to have somebody do that. And especially somebody like Sid Rowe, it means the world to me.
for sure. And even as large as this industry is, because it's pretty big, it's still a small world.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Hmm.
It's the what do they call it? The biggest or I don't even know. The biggest small industry? I don't even remember. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
it's expansive. You can do anything you want in this industry, right? There's no
for sure.
limitation to what career you want to build in the insurance industry. But yeah, like you will see the same people over and over because the longevity in this industry is incredible. And these people stick around and um they continue to push the industry forward for years and years and years. So it's a huge testament to the value of this industry.
For sure. There definitely are two sides of the pie. Captive folks don't talk to the independent side too often, and
Yeah.
vice versa. There definitely division there, and that's by design. But I got to know both sides now, and so, like we said earlier, I probably know a million people. It's crazy, big industry when you look at it overall, but the relationships that you get to build are
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
tremendous. So tell us what you do now for Vertafore.
Yeah, so I have this amazing team that I get to work with every day. So we're working with current customers and helping them better utilize their technology. So, when they're kind of hitting some roadblocks or they want to make sure they're expanding on certain features and functionality within the system, I have this great team that goes in and works with these customers. Sometimes we're on site with them, sometimes a lot of it's still virtual, and I assume it will stay that way forever and ever. But just really dig in with these customers and help resolve roadblocks that they're encountering, or just saying like, hey, this new release came out, there's a feature here. Um, we think this could be valuable. Can you help us better utilize what we're already paying for? And so really making sure that that customer cycle continues to like cycles should keep moving, right? And
Right,
and
right.
sometimes it's like you can buy technology and then you're like, and either it goes on a shelf or we just keep using it the exact same way that we've always been using it. Well, nobody's happy in those scenarios. But if you keep that conversation going and leave that door open for customers to ask questions, get answers, have more impact with technology that they need to have every day anyway, I think that those relationships only become stronger. Customers are happier, and we all learn in those scenarios. So we get this great view of this is what our technology does, but we also get feedback from our customers saying, I wish it would do this too. And we can't make all of those dreams come true, but just being
Right.
able to help our customers get better usage out of, something. Insurance technology is not cheap. There's very little of it that you
Right.
go, that's nominal, whatever. Um, but when they're making those investments and they're making them in Vertafore products, we certainly want to be there to help them um, get even more bang for their buck.
So if you took a poll of all your clients, what percentage would you guesstimate they would say I use X percent of my AMS or
Oh,
Radar or whatever technology they have available in their own agency? It's not a big percent, is
no,
it?
it's not a big percent. I'm trying to remember I remember like having this conversation about utilization. Nobody's going to use 100%,
No, no, we
but
can't expect that.
yeah, yeah. Even if we got agencies up, I don't know, I shouldn't even throw numbers out there, but it's like, is it 50%? Is it 70%? Um, you know,
But right now, my guesstimate, it's probably 15 to 20%
yeah, yeah,
if you're honest.
yeah. There's,
So there's like you say, your role is important because there's that 80% that you're not tapping into. You may not need it all, but there might be a pretty good chunk of it that if you just kept an open mind or tested it out to see how it can work or were shown that it worked because you
hmm
didn't know, all these reasons why, yeah, I
yeah.
should be using it.
There's so much of that we don't know what we don't know. We encounter it in life, and
Hmm.
technology is no different. And I think that it can be a little bit embarrassing, right? You're like, oh, geez, I should know how to use
Right, for
this. But
sure.
just ask the question. That's what our nephew chapters do, is kind of give people a more open format to ask those questions of us. But also just, find somebody to ask. I mean, our role as a vendor is to, help you have a better technology journey. We can't solve everything. I wish we could. I wish there were magic wands in the insurtech industry. Wouldn't that be
Right, right.
great?
Yeah,
But we're certainly striving to be better and make sure that we're bringing meaningful solutions. And we want to work with our agencies to make sure that we continue to do that in a really effective way.
that's very cool. So in your role with Vertafore, are you 100% remote or are you on site at times?
I'm on site at times, which is nice. I get to head out to Denver every once in a while and be in a meeting room face to face with people, which I really appreciate. But most of the time I'm home. So yeah, it's
So is Denver, that's like a regional office, right?
yes, yes.
For
Denver
Vertafore?
is
Okay.
headquarters. Then there's a few other
Oh, it is.
offices. Yep,
Oh, okay.
yep. So
I was
Michigan
thinking you
and
were,
Tennessee,
okay.
yeah. There's a few other locations. Canada, there's some Canada
Okay. So Denver's
operations.
probably one of the closest offices for you anyway,
It's the
and
easiest
its
flight.
headquarters.
So, yeah.
So you're flying out of where? O'Hare? Cedar
Cedar Rapids.
Rapids?
Yep.
Okay.
2 hour little flight from Cedar Rapids to
Mm-hmm.
Denver. So,
Mm-hmm.
pretty quick and easy.
Yep. It's not a huge town, but it's big enough to have some decent
Yes.
airline traffic coming in and
Yes,
out. So
exactly. Unlike Dubuque, we
yeah.
don't have a whole heck of a lot. You can fly to
Right.
Orlando.
No.
That's what we got going on here.
Do you?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So my next question about Monday Magic. So
Oh, yes.
that's how I got a hold of you to begin with because I knew you and I knew about Monday Magic.
hmm
So what prompted all this? How long you been doing it? Bring us up to speed.
Yeah. Oh, so I mean, I know he may not want to take credit for this, but I kind of blame Ryan Hanley for all of it.
Okay.
No,
Well, he gets blamed for a lot of stuff, so why not?
he's probably like, whatever, Olivia, I'm not talking to you anymore.
Right. Right.
No, actually, it was an Elevate conference, and that was kind of
Mm.
people
Not
were
Cleveland,
Cleveland.
Milwaukee,
Nope,
Cleveland.
Cleveland. Now, I didn't go to Milwaukee. I
I
went
was
to,
there. I
oh,
didn't either.
yeah, I went
I
to,
was in Cleveland. Yeah.
but there was so much emphasis during that particular event about making video. Nobody
Hmm.
was
For
really
sure.
doing it. It was, I mean, what was it? 1% they talked about? It was such a low
Hmm.
percentage of
Yeah. And that was like
agencies.
5 years ago, maybe five,
Yes.
6 years ago.
Yes. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember Mike Crowley talking about video proposals. Like there was just so much. And I was like this giant sponge trying to figure out this whole other world of insurance that I hadn't been exposed to. And then I got back to the office and I was telling my boss about the conference, and he's like, maybe you do have a message to share on video and you just need to do it. And I agonized over it and I agonized over it. And I mean, I actually don't remember what my first video was about. I used to remember, and now it's been long enough that I've forgotten what it was about. Um, but then, yeah, I started
How long
just,
ago was that? Like around when did you start your first
um,
video?
it'll be 5 years in June or
Wow.
July, something
And
like
you've
that.
been pretty religious about it, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah. So for a while it was, it might be like Sunday or Monday. It wasn't necessarily always Monday, but for the last 4 years, I think it's been Monday with a
That's awesome.
few
You made
videos in
a
between.
serious commitment.
Yeah, I skipped a Monday. I just was I was having a bad day. I had nothing. I was like, I have nothing good to say. I could just get on camera and whine about something, but I really just, but other than that, it's just been um I have this really inspiring life around me where things happen, like either I overhear a conversation or my kids say something and I'm like, ugh, there's a life lesson in here.
Because you
Um,
rarely talk about work, do you?
no, I don't talk. I very rarely talk about work. Mm-mm.
Intentionally, you don't.
Yeah, yeah. So I would,
Only base life lessons, basically.
yeah.
If nobody's heard it, they would know that most of your little magic Monday talks are 5 minutes or less,
Hmm.
and they're just your perspective on life,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, pretty much. Yeah. Something happened and this is how my brain interpreted it or what I got out of it. And yeah, so I don't know. Like I sometimes I do wonder like, is LinkedIn the place for this? But it's out there. And I hope it relates like people can take it to work with them. But yeah, it's not directly about career
Hmm.
movement or anything like
Right,
that.
right.
It's just much more of life. And yeah.
Even though LinkedIn's viewed as more of a professional
Hmm.
work life app, it's becoming more and more personal, I think.
Yeah.
And I've grown that network more than any of my other networks
Hmm.
by far.
Yeah.
Number one, they don't limit you to like Facebook does with friends. So you can have connections, they call them, as many as you want.
Yep.
I know people over 100,000
Oh,
connections. It's
geez.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And, but so do you actually measure like your viewership and things like that?
I don't anymore. It's funny because this last Monday, I talked about external validation. Like we love it, we live for it. Some people have maybe evolved past ever looking for it, but it's something that I struggle with. And one of those things was no longer looking at the metrics in terms of how many people viewed it, how many people liked it. I do try and respond whenever people leave a comment because that's like just so important to me to make sure that I'm like, hey, I read it, I saw
Good
it,
for
I read
you.
it, thank you.
Good
Um,
for you. Yeah.
but otherwise, I don't remember who used the phrase once years ago, but vanity metrics. And it
Hmm.
just has kind of stuck with me, in terms of
Right.
like, do I need 2,000 people to look at this, or do I need five people to look at it and really go, that changed my day. Um, you
Or it
know,
could be one
could be
person
one
that
person.
impacted their life.
Yes, yes. I mean, I've had people reach out and be like, "Oh, I needed that this morning. Thank you." And I'm like, "Huh, that's amazing." Like, do I care? I shouldn't say, do I care? Of course I care. But does, what matters more? Like people, 1,000 other people scrolling through and just kind of watching 3 seconds of it, or the
Hmm.
person that watched the whole thing and it had an impact on them. Um, so yeah, I've had to just kind of like step away from the vanity metrics. When you're in a marketing role, I get it. You have to know what those metrics are.
Sure, sure.
In my purpose with those videos, I don't need to know how many people viewed it, how many
Good for
seconds
you.
they watched it, what city they were from. It's if I'm truly in a place where I'm like, it'd be interesting to see, great, go ahead and look. But if it's a thing where I'm like, I'm having a crappy day, I want to know how many people looked at this, I just
I
have to
like
I
that.
have to
See,
step away from it. Yeah.
yeah, you're not looking for validation, and
Yeah.
that's cool. Do it because you want to do it,
Yeah.
not because I need to grow numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very cool.
So,
Good for you.
yeah. So then when my daughter's in it, like she used to ask too, like how many people watched it. And I was like, you know what? We're not going to
Right.
look anymore. We're not going to, because
Yeah.
my kids grew up in the TikTok generation where you wanted to know how many people looked at your video. I call it the
Right.
TikTok generation. That's so silly. Um,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? Like that's what they've been taught
Hmm.
by,
Sure.
all these external forces is that you're just like waiting for clicks and likes and all of that kind of stuff. And so I've
Hmm.
kind of had to like help my kids get past that. I had to get past it first.
Good for you. So, personal tough question. Maybe not so tough, but personal question. What's your most favorite app on your phone right now?
Oh, well,
Don't say TikTok.
oh boy, which one Pinterest.
Are you a Pinterest
I
fan?
am such a Pinterest lover. I can't believe that it's that or my Target app. But yeah, so Pinterest, I do a little like when I'm looking for my inspirational quote for my Monday video, there 99% of them are from Pinterest. Um
It's a heavy female readership.
yes, recipes. Sometimes I don't get dressed without looking at Pinterest. Like it
Hmm.
is like something I use multiple times a day.
Oh.
But yeah, otherwise it's Amazon Music.
I wasn't going to say music, but 70% of folks I ask that question to say Amazon.
Mm,
And it might be mine too, I
yeah,
have to admit.
yeah,
Because Amazon hits our front doorstep, no joke, a few times a day.
yeah.
It's crazy, ridiculous how much we rely on it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so that could be one of my answers, but I have others too. But Pinterest, I would not have guessed. That's interesting. That's where your motivation comes from. A lot of it.
Yes, it is this instant feeder of all of these. Um, I mean, like, one of the hardest decisions you'll ever have to face in life is choosing whether to walk away or try harder. Like, it is what a friend of mine would call inspirational quote roulette. You don't know what you're going to get, and you
Roulette,
might get the thing
yeah.
that goes, "Oh, that felt terrible." But for the most part, I can open this up and there's going to be something beautiful that kind of keeps my day going in the right direction. Um, yeah, so I don't know, I have a ton of appreciation for it. Plus, I can be like, I have this shirt. What should I wear with it? So there's practical purposes behind it.
Right, right,
Recipes,
right.
everything, but mostly just like life inspiration I get from Pinterest.
That's cool. So anybody hasn't heard Olivia's Monday Magic, they need to find her or follow her on LinkedIn primarily,
Yeah,
primarily,
yeah,
where you're going to see that, and at least follow that part of what she has to share because it's pretty cool.
yeah. Well, thank
Um,
you.
Back to your career, what would you say was the hardest thing you ever had to do in your entire career?
Oh, um, honestly, leaving Tricor was the hardest thing that I did. And I know I left
All right.
twice, so but like um, the first time I knew like, ugh, like it's just time. The second
Hmm.
time was like, this is it. Like I won't come back in through these doors, like I'm walking away from an agency that has raised me.
Right.
And
15 years, right?
yeah, yeah. So it felt like moving out of my parents' house all over again. You know what I mean? Like it was this strike
Right.
of independence saying, I love you guys. You've been everything to me for a long, long time. Um, but I'm gonna go do this other thing over here, and I hope that we still remain friends. And I'm very lucky in that the mentors that were with me then are still friends of mine now. And yeah, so it was a very tough decision from a career standpoint.
Hmm. What's the most proudest thing you can't say kids because everybody says that, but what's the proudest? Let's say keep it to work career. What's the proudest moment you've experienced in your work career?
Oh boy. Oh. I don't know. Getting my CIC designation was a big
Oh, that's
that
huge.
was a big deal for me.
Explain to people that don't know CIC. What does it stand
You're
for,
certified
and what's it
insurance
involve?
counselor, right? Certified insurance
What's
counselor.
involved?
So you have to take 5 tests in 5 years on 5 different insurance topics, and they're essay questions. And they're 20, it's a 20 question essay test on property, commercial property, personal lines, life and health. Um, Gosh, I'm trying to remember what other agency operations is an agency operations one of them. And then there's, gosh, what am I forgetting? Is it casualty? Might be
That I don't
casualty.
know. I'm not a CIC, but it's right now it's considered probably the paramount industry designation to possess.
Yeah.
I would say over any others, over CPCU or any others.
Yeah. I failed a couple, and had to do
Did
those
you?
more than once. Oh, yeah. I remember
Hmm.
the first one I took. I mean, you just don't know what to expect. So that didn't go
Right,
well.
right.
And then I failed personal lines, which I never worked in personal lines. So I was like, eh. But then the next time I went back to take personal lines, I'm like, why did I think this was so hard? It was like I just was overthinking everything. And so, but yeah, I learned so much and I got to work with these great instructors and meet so many other agency people. Like it was an incredibly rewarding experience. I really did. I loved that process in
So
its
it
own
was
weird way.
for sure worth it. You would do
Hmm.
it over again if
Hmm.
you had to.
Yeah, I would recommend it to anybody. Like you are
Yeah.
digging into policy forms, and then when you get done with your CIC, you get to move on to different courses for your updates, and those are like insurance debate club. Like it is, those are great, great
That's for the nerds for
opportunities.
sure.
Yeah, like let's tear apart an E&O policy. Okay, and like we just it's
Definitely for the nerds.
yeah,
Yep.
yep. It's great fun. So, but yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is like being on advisory boards for carriers. Biggest honor I think that I had. Just like, hey, will you come in here and share your thoughts? Like that is a huge opportunity.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
very cool
Yep.
experience.
Yep.
Yep. I've had that same fortunate.
Yeah.
So, well, that's all we have for today. I want to thank you for coming on board and letting our listeners hear all about your life in magic moments and career and what's next for Olivia Schmitt.
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean,
What's your next big move?
next big move. I think just continuing to learn here at Vertafore. I mean, this is such a different world for me to be in a company of this size, but it also means I am exposed to some of the smartest people that I have ever gotten to work with. I mean, I've had that luck the whole time, honestly. But
Sounds like it.
yeah,
Yeah.
but this is just I am challenged on a daily basis. I am leading a team of people that are incredibly smart and talented and teach me every day. So yeah, I'm gonna just keep learning and digging in and pushing on this industry. So like I'm loving where I'm at. I'm loving the people that I get to work with and learn from and collaborate with. Like that's what I'm gonna keep doing. It's just yeah, just challenging myself within the role that I'm in right now.
Good for you. It sounds like you put yourself in a good space.
Yeah, I love it.
Good. Well, I want to thank everybody for listening. This is Captain Dave Jackson coming to you on Collabcast by IAOA. My guest today has been Olivia Schmitt. Olivia is from my home state of Iowa. She lives in Dubuque, Iowa, and she's currently a marketing manager with Vertafore, based out of Denver, Colorado. Olivia, thanks for taking time with us. I know our visitors are going to love listening to you when this episode drops. And you have a great rest of your week. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, you too. Thanks so much, Dave.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Collabcast with IAOA with Captain Dave Jackson. Production and distribution by podsquad.fm, riverside.fm, and Spotify for podcasters. Special thanks to Little Dog Social Media, Terry Champion, and all our guests and listeners. If you're an independent insurance agency owner, please subscribe to our podcast weekly. You can also request to join our agency owner exclusive Facebook group, IAOA, or Insurance Agency Owners Alliance at IAOA.com. Captain Dave Jackson signs out from sunny Hendersonville, Tennessee.